Welcome to this explainer. Today, we are untangling the incredibly complex and, frankly, pretty chaotic timeline of the 2026 Middle East military crisis. The situation on the ground and out on the water is literally shifting by the hour right now. So our goal today is to cut right through the noise and build a clear, objective picture of exactly what is happening and, more importantly, why.
So let's just dive right into the biggest question on everyone's mind regarding this explosive situation in the Persian Gulf. How in the world did the 2026 Iran war ceasefire shatter so quickly? I mean, just weeks ago, we had a mediated truce, and today, we're looking at ballistic missiles and a region on high alert. To really understand this rapid collapse, we've got to trace the cracks all the way back to the foundation.
We're dropping right into the thick of the action on June 28th. Following reports from U.S. Central Command, the United States struck 10 Iranian military targets right around the Strait of Hormuz. And well, Iran's retaliation was instant. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps launched a massive barrage of ballistic missiles and drones at U.S. facilities in Kuwait and Bahrain, which triggered emergency air raid sirens across both of those nations. The spark for this entire exchange? A drone attack on a commercial oil tanker called the MT Kiku.
Now here's where the massive global economic stakes really hit home. 2 million. That is the number of barrels of crude oil sitting on the MT Kikokudu when it was struck. When a vessel carrying that much oil gets attacked in one of the world's most vital energy choke points, it is no longer just a regional security issue. It becomes a direct threat to the global economy. That single event basically ignited the powder keg.
And the political rhetoric absolutely matches the heat of that economic reality. Right after the strikes, U.S. President Donald Trump issued a really stark ultimatum, warning that any further violations from Tehran would force a maximum military escalation. It just goes to show you how incredibly high the stakes are being set right now and how fragile the whole concept of restraint has actually become.
Let's look at the origins of the April truce, the desperate push for peace.
To figure out how we got to this current level of chaos, we actually have to rewind back to the early months of 2026. The region had already seen devastating military exchanges, massive trade disruptions, and a crisis that was just spinning completely out of control. It was that sheer level of destruction that created an urgent, desperate need for a pause. So Pakistan stepped up, hosting the Islamabad talks at the Serena Hotel, essentially bringing both the US and Iran to the table to just halt the violence.
Next up, competing demands for peace, the diplomatic disconnect.
Getting to the negotiation table is one thing, but agreeing on the menu is a whole different story. The demands both sides brought to Islamabad were deeply, fundamentally incompatible. The U.S. laid out a 15-point plan focusing heavily on ending Iran's nuclear program and demanding an unconditional reopening of the Strait of Hormuz in exchange for phased sanctions relief. Iran, on the other hand, countered with a 10-point plan demanding full war reparations, an immediate end to U.S. blockades, and a total withdrawal of U.S. forces from the region. They weren't just pages apart, they were basically reading completely different books.
Because of that massive gap, friction sparked the literal second the April 8th ceasefire was announced. The immediate flashpoint? Lebanon. Iran and the Pakistani mediators claimed the ceasefire covered all regional fronts, Lebanon included, but the U.S. and Israel adamantly stated Lebanon was excluded. And to demonstrate that, Israel immediately launched an intense wave of airstrikes, dubbed Operation Eternal Darkness, which Iran instantly condemned as a blatant violation of the truce.
Moving into blockades and broken promises, a timeline of escalation.
So, the foundation was basically cracked on day one, and from there, things deteriorated fast. Citing blockade violations, on April 19th, the U.S. Navy seized a massive Iranian cargo ship called the Tuska. Just over a month later, on May 25th, the U.S. launched strikes against Iranian boat sites claiming self-defense. By June 7th, Iran escalated things directly, firing ballistic missiles at Israel in response to strikes in Beirut. It became this very clear escalating tit-for-tat pattern.
While all that military action was ramping up, the economic chokehold never really let go. The April agreement theoretically promised open waters, but reports showed Iran kept the Strait of Hormuz heavily restricted by charging truly unprecedented maritime tolls. We are talking about an astonishing $1 million per passing commercial ship. That essentially choked off normal, free-flowing global trade. Now, the United States didn't just sit back. On April 13th, the U.S. formally instituted a naval blockade, enforced by CENTCOM. This actively prevented any vessels from originating or terminating at Iranian ports, though they did allow transit to non-Iranian ports.
It was a massive, strategic move designed to apply maximum economic pressure directly on the Iranian government.
Which brings us to the regional and global fallout, navigating the brink of total war. With everything devolving into blockades and airstrikes, the global reaction has been, frankly, all over the map. You've got China stepping in to propose entirely new regional-led security frameworks. Conversely, nations directly in the crosshairs, like Bahrain, are vehemently demanding urgent UN Security Council action against the aggression. Meanwhile, the EU is desperately urging de-escalation, and Pakistan is stubbornly continuing its mediation efforts, refusing to give up on diplomacy despite some glaring failures.
And that leads right into the incredibly volatile reality we're facing today. U.S. aircraft are actively targeting Iranian drone and radar infrastructure. Iran is publicly warning of crushing responses to any further strikes. Everyday citizens in Gulf states are living under active air raid sirens and emergency measures. And perhaps most impactfully for the rest of us, commercial shipping in one of the world's most vital energy corridors faces an extreme ongoing threat. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a pretty critical question to chew on. We've just watched comprehensive, mediated peace plans totally fall apart, collapsing right back into naval blockades and missile strikes. If agreements can shatter this quickly over fundamental disconnects, what is it actually going to take to secure long-term stability in the Middle East? And until we find that answer, how is the world supposed to navigate this persistent threat to global trade? Thank you so much for joining me to untangle this incredibly complex issue. Stay curious, keep learning, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.